Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Records and Rants. Today, we have, as Dixon said last week, two talking heads discussing the band Talking Heads, and we're really excited to get into this one today. Also, we have a rant at the end, not going to spoil it too much, but it involves Trump. So if you're going to enjoy that, stick around. But I can't do this without the co-host, Dixon. How are you?
Nice, great to be back. Another great introduction.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate you including me in this.
Of course, yeah. I think what are we, like 3 for 3 now after the whole debacle?
After the whole debacle, you're just like, oh yeah, screw everyone.
This is gonna get contorted more and more every single time.
Man. No, but I'm excited for this episode because I've been familiar with the Talking Heads for a while, but I haven't really listened like beyond like what is considered the core compilation of Talking Heads.
Agreed. Like
I
feel like 75% of the songs that you gave me to listen to I have never heard before in my entire life.
See, and that's interesting because I kind of gave you what I thought you would heard, what you would have heard already if you were into the Talking Heads. Now, are you familiar with the Talking Heads?
I am actually, and the only reason I know that, and I don't know why I started listening to this song, but it jumped out at me one day, and it's Once in a Lifetime. I feel like a lot of people know that one, and I fell in love, but for whatever reason, I never pursued it. I never listened to anything else that they had, which is kind of strange for me to do, but I don't know what it was. I think I was so addicted to that song, I had it on repeat, and I never went past that.
I do that with songs a lot. It seems like I just listen to it and then I'm sick of listening to it. But weren't you sharing this music with one of your former friends? They kind of shut it down. Yeah,
so one of my former friends, this is an infamous story right here, and I was so disappointed. I don't know if we talked about this BTS, and I don't know if I conveyed how upset I was, but I heard Once in a Lifetime hanging out at my house, and I said, yo, you gotta watch this music video. Like, this is I've never seen anything like this. This is abstract, like, it's really cool, and the music is fantastic. Yeah. And I played the music video to Once in a Lifetime, and he sat there the whole time, big scowl on his face, just arms crossed, and then at the end of it, I turned to him like, yo, wasn't that like really good? And he's like, dude, I know you thought this was like really cool, and like you were all excited about this, but I got nothing out of it, and they suck. I was like, what the hell? Enough. Isn't that like brutal? Like what the hell kind of response is that?
That is pretty brutal. That's kind of what we expect in our hot takes in the comments.
Oh yeah.
By the way, do we have any comments? Because last week we talked about some of the really, really, really scorching hot takes we got on our YouTube video in particular. Where we kind of broke them down emotionally and musically.
Yeah, a lot of emotion in that one. That was a lot of fun, though. If you guys didn't hear that, go back to our last episode. At the very end, we discuss comments, and there's a bit of controversy. But to answer your question, Dixon, we do have comments from last week, and it's 3 from the same guy, all posted within minutes of each other, possibly seconds.
Shout out.
Yes, from Darlin Jack, JACQ. I don't really know what he's saying, but the first one he says, this is on our R. Smith's The Greatest Band of All Time video, which is very popular amongst YouTubers right now. It's I think we're at over 1.5k views, which is pretty huge for us, being a small channel.
It is huge.
But he said more pull than Sir Paul McCartney. God, that is interesting. So I'm sorry, darling. I don't really know what that means.
I'm with him on this. That, maybe he's making a connection here in terms of Morrissey, the Smiths being, trying to maybe eclipse that Beatles image.
Okay.
I think when you talk about British music, obviously the Beatles, British pop music, post-war. But then you have when you're trying to make that connection of greats to Morrissey, maybe that's kind of what he's throwing out there. I can kind of see that.
It's just the way that it was worded. It's very strange. It's
very strange.
Yeah, it's a little strange wording. And then this next one he says, he can, and then in all caps, speak his mind, and then lowercase, and he can ask me, quote, please, anytime he wants.
So I think he screwed up the lyrics is "Stop me, oh oh oh, stop me, stop me if you think you've heard this one before." 'Cause that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe Darlin is a woman, and then that's why she's saying he can ask me please anytime he wants. So that's a little interesting, a little estrel right there.
Yeah, sounds like there's some confusion of lyrics on her end, but he can speak his mind, and that's kind of what we said. It's like, all right,
yeah,
Morrissey kind of does his own thing, and that's it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then finally, Darlin says now this one makes sense. His voice dancing His voice dancing over the music is an awesome description. Oh wow, I think we did say that, yeah. And then they said heart emoji, clap emoji, okay emoji, hands praising emoji, and then clapping emoji once more, and heart emoji.
Wow. Okay. Really, really laying it all out there for Maz, big time. Good.
Yeah. You know what? We're gonna give this a heart right now. So, Darlin, we really appreciate your comments. I'm honestly sorry that I didn't understand them as they're written, but Dixon seemed to get the gist of it. So
I talk half the time in rhymes and riddles, so that's kind of why I understand the language that they may be using.
You're very deep. You're very deep.
So I think we have to start. We talk about Talking Heads.
Yeah,
it kind of reminds me of our debacle a few weeks ago when you neglected to include me in the episode.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I forgot about it. I know I forgot about it. So I don't know.
I think you have to draw a parallel between that moment and Talking Heads.
Okay.
And I'm referring to David Byrne, frontman, primary songwriter, kind of like a really avant-garde, really kind of wants to push the envelope.
Yes.
You're gonna appreciate this. He says he's autistic. He kind of sounds like us, like how we always say we're on the spectrum.
Yeah.
However, he's never been diagnosed professionally or like any formal diagnosis of autism, but he claims he's on the spectrum, which I kind of believe looking at some of this stuff.
Yeah, I would agree with the self-assessment.
Yeah. So also evidently a big time egomaniac.
Really? See, now that's disappointing to me. That really is.
It is. So Chris France, he's the drummer. He wrote a book in 2020, and he did this interview with The Guardian. And if you knew, he says the headline is actually, if you knew David Byrne, you would not be jealous of him.
Wow.
And like he says, it's like he can't help himself. It's like he can't help himself. His brain is wired in such a way that he doesn't know where he ends and other people begin. He can't imagine that anyone else would be important.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty interesting stuff, huh?
So I guess he's saying he elevates himself and his music, and he thinks he's like so great, I guess, that he doesn't really vibe with other people because he thinks he's on a totally different level.
That's what it seems like, and I think that's evident, and we'll talk about it when we go forward. But and that whole series stopped making sense. The film, you could see that there's that thing, that connection there. But I think that where he thinks he is, I think it's kind of obvious. He's doing this new, like Dave Byrne was doing this new tour like right before COVID. Mm-hmm. Well, I forget what it's called, but it's like the whole stage is like covered in this sheet. Like the background is just this like shimmering like background.
Yeah.
And there's like 16 a piece band, but they all have their instruments. They're not like stationed anywhere. It's like picture like a drum kit, like in a marching band.
Yeah.
Like that's what the drummer has like on himself as he's drumming.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. And they all kind of like dance around, and they're all barefoot. Every single one of them is barefoot. Oh my God. And they have like these sort of like formations of dance they do. So definitely, you could see that, David Byrne had his ideas, and he kind of put them out there with, Talking Heads. And it's interesting that it kind of went that way because they were kind of a low-key, like punk, post-punk band. They started at the CBGB in New York City.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't know that they were around since '73.
Yeah, they've been around for a while. And, there's this scene in the movie. There's a movie called CBGB, and all these bands come across the stage, and Talking Heads gets up, and the character playing David Byrne says, "We're Talking Heads. we're from across the street, and I guess because they lived in the apartment across the street.
Yeah.
So when you consider that kind of where they started, like, you know, kind of like a grungy, not very polished punk club act, to now this post-punk new wave art funk world music, electronic trance, synth, it kind of is an interesting big time evolution and jump, you know, through the years.
Yeah, honestly, it's quite the leap. And
Right.
you know, I have to ask you this question. Could you be, and I'm going to get into this later, but do you think you could be as unique and creative as David Byrne is without having like that high regard for yourself? Or
it's a really good question.
Yeah, like is it a symptom of that? Is it, or is it the cause of it? I don't know.
It's a really, really good question. I think those are all those questions you ask, like the musicians that are deep into addiction. Would they have been as creative and not had the addiction? Byrne claims that his autism diagnosis unlocked something in him that allows him to kind of create and open up new avenues for kind of doing that. But yes, that's a really good point. I don't think, let's just jump right into it. I don't think that a film, a concert tour, a series, the imagery, the sounds, the setup would be possible. Like, Stop Making Sense would be possible without David Byrne thinking he's the ultimate artist of all time.
Yes.
But I think that is just I think some of those songs, you know, the whole film, it's filmed over a couple days in Los Angeles. And I think that film, the visual, the sound, the setup, the art nouveau surrounding it, I think it's just an incredible. I think it has to be, if you were there and you saw it, that had to be one of the greatest live moments, one of the greatest concert moments of all time. Like, it just is, I think it's so incredible.
I'm completely with you on this. And you know, in watching that, it's just like the performance, like you said, the visuals, everything is just so good and unique, and I absolutely love it. But like you were saying, if David Byrne wasn't how he was, I think this would just be like a standard like band playing, and that's kind of it. There'd be no performance, there'd be no art behind it.
No, you're absolutely right, and it's, you know, just the Girlfriend is Better from Stop Making Sense. That recording, that his dance moves, the funk, the electronic, that has got to be one of the greatest recordings, I think, of all time. One of the greatest tracks ever.
I was going to say that's actually my favorite that I listened to. Girlfriend is Better from Stop Making Sense. That is, it's an amazing jam. The bass is just going crazy. The walk down that it does on the verse, it goes really hard, as the kids say. And the performance, and the performance that's happening is amazing. It's like literally like nothing I've ever seen, which is weird because this is just a band performing, but the way that they do it and how David Byrne performs, I mean, he really is the center man. Like, he is
100%.
I hate to say it because like there's a lot of talented people in this band, but like David Byrne is Talking Heads.
And after they broke up, the other members did a tour, and the bass player Tina Weymouth and France on keyboards. There, our drums, they're actually married. They've been together for a long time. All those musicians got together and they did an album and a tour, the Shrunken Heads.
That's a little see, that's kind of like an innuendo there, kind of saying that, like, it's like 100%. We don't have big heads anymore because we got rid of the guy with the biggest head in the band.
100%.
Yeah.
And so, speaking of, you know, one of the visual that pops out is the big suit, the gigantic suit. So maybe you recall that from that episode. I sent you that clip from Doug, the Nickelodeon cartoon.
I love that you're like, possibly small Easter egg here. Maybe you recall this.
Seriously, I remember seeing that.
I love that.
I remember seeing Doug before I saw this, obviously, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, that Doug wore that suit. That was what Doug did.
That was what Doug did. Yeah, no, I remember seeing that as a kid too, because I saw that obviously before I saw Talking Heads, and I was like, what is happening here? What is this?
Yeah, and there's he does a video where he interviews himself as different people. It's himself
Yes.
interviewing himself as different people.
Yeah. I
So you know
love
he's
that.
like, yeah, definitely a little wacky. But he says it seemed, and the way he's treating this is it seems like it's like a legit interview.
Yeah.
He
Yeah, I
said,
know.
what's your next project? Oh, it's about tabloid stories. Well, that was, their album after that was basically stories. It was a film. But he says about the suit, I like symmetry, geometric shapes. I wanted my head to appear smaller, and the easiest way to do that was to make my body bigger because music is very physical, and often the body understands it before the head.
Yes,
There you go.
I remember someone actually put that in the comments of the YouTube video, I believe, and I was like, it's kind of deep in a way.
Yeah, it is 100%. Absolutely. So, and so we give Dave Byrne a lot of credit. We give the band obviously for sure talented.
Oh yeah,
Got
they're
kind of
amazing.
got their start. Yeah.
I love that Tina. Sorry. Anyway.
Oh man, when she's on that bass, man, it's something
Yeah,
else.
get out of here. Like, yeah, it's fantastic.
It is. So we can't. I think there's a real good chunk of the Talking Heads catalog that they were collaborating with Brian Eno as their producer.
Mhm.
So he did 3 albums with them, starting with Fear of Music, and then Remain in Light, and that was in 1980. Excuse me. It started with More Songs About Buildings and Food in 78,
Mhm.
Fear of Music in 79, and then Remain in Light in 1980. So I think that Brian Eno and David Byrne kind of played off of one another, and I think maybe you had those moments where just to link it to something familiar to the show, like those Brian Wilson moments where he's kind of playing the studio and playing everybody in the band,
Yes.
and then producing what the result was.
Yeah, so he's like the conductor essentially is what you're saying.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So some real quick facts.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you're interested.
Absolutely.
All right. So we go back to our Rolling Stone, the Rolling Stone lists. They had a lot of updates, and I looked through a lot of the updates the last couple of days, and some of
Really?
them are like absolutely trash.
Really?
Like 2020, 2021, they updated a couple of the lists. At one point, Billie Eilish appears in the greatest artists list or the greatest songs list.
Come on.
Her album is on the 500 greatest albums.
What is happening over there at Rolling Stone? I don't get
Craziness. Yeah, it's craziness.
It's like it's like throwing sorry, but it's like throwing me on the writing team and be like, oh, I heard this on the radio once. Like, I guess it's pretty good. Like, I feel like that's what's happening.
It's true, and they also shifted their 500 greatest songs of all time. The list, the top 10 is like completely all over the place. I don't know what they were doing, but anyway, Talking Heads has 2 albums. They used to have 4 albums on the 500 greatest albums of all time. Now in this update in 2020, they have 2. At number 39 is Remain in Light, and then 364, More Songs About Buildings and Food, which is their 2nd album. They have a few songs on the 500 greatest songs list of all time. Number 28, Once in a Lifetime, and number 123, This Must Be the Place, Native Melody. One of my favorites. I don't know about you.
No, that I really enjoyed that one.
And they're also ranked as number 100 as the 100 greatest artists of all time. But David Byrne is noticeably absent, and this was actually kind of a stink online, that he was snubbed from the greatest songwriters list.
Wow.
But I guess they also kind of snubbed Eric Clapton, Aretha Franklin, Cat Stevens, Sting, a few other people on there. So just some kind of interesting stuff to kind of put this all into perspective as we move forward.
That's actually kind of shocking because I feel like David Byrne's songwriting is it's abstract, but it still tells something. I'm not even sure how to really put it. It's
right.
It's so unique though. I can't understand how you can't go without giving him credit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like we always say, you could separate the art from the artist, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. But I remember being in high school and hearing the Talking Heads, and I'm like, oh my god, this is the greatest band of all time.
Really?
Like they blew me away.
Yeah,
And
no, they're amazing.
yeah, so I'm glad you had some positive things to say. So what do you think? What do you think to make sense of all this stuff?
You mean like I guess what I overall thought of Talking Heads?
Yeah, so why don't you want to give us a rundown of what you kind of listened to,
Yeah, oh yeah, sure.
what we listened to?
Yeah, so Dixon gave me the old list, and I guess we'll go through it quick.
Yeah.
We had Cycle Killer, Love Comes to Town, Take Me to the River.
Ooh,
That's a really good one. Found a Job, Life During Wartime, Cities, Once in a Lifetime, Cross-Eyed and Painless, This Must Be the Place, fantastic song. Burning Down the House, 83 Live, which was easily one of my favorites.
oh,
And She Was,
yes.
another fantastic song. Road to Nowhere, Wild Wild Life, Blind, Flowers, have something to say about that one. Heaven,
Oh,
Girlfriend is Better from Stop Making Sense. And there you go.
yeah, awesome, very cool. Yeah, so
Yeah, no, they
kind of
were.
a comprehensive list.
Yeah, I would say so. And the thing that I found really interesting about this list that you gave me to listen to
Mm,
is that it really spans a lot of musical sounds from them. Like it's not there's a lot of different
right.
genres, a lot of different sounds going on. Especially with Flowers, I made a note there. First of all, I love the lyrics to that, and also it had an almost kind of like at first I thought it was like a Latino kind of drum beat going on.
Yes,
There was maybe like
100%.
an island
Yeah.
beat, and I absolutely loved it. I kind of almost got Jimmy Buffet vibes from it.
Yes, I can for sure see that.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, but that was one that I started listening to. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I really like this, and the more I listened to it, the better it got.
Yeah. And you're talking about Nothing But Flowers?
Oh yeah,
That's
sorry, yeah.
yeah. No, I just want to make sure that we're on because what's interesting is you're gonna like this too. Is that this was from their album Naked? It was 1988. It was released. It was their eighth and final album.
Wow,
Features Johnny Marr from the Smiths on that album.
really?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
How about that?
Interesting stuff, huh?
Now, that song was kind of interesting lyrically because it was I didn't really understand what he was talking about. It kind of almost seemed like I got like a sense of like an apocalyptic, like there's nothing left anymore kind of thing.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand it. Like now he says this was a Pizza Hut, now it's all covered with daisies. You got it, you got it. I miss the honky tonks, Dairy Queen to
Yeah.
7-Elevens.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I don't know if he's like talking about going to a simpler life or what really is the the overall message behind this song.
It's funny because just did a quick scroll on Wikipedia and um, the critics agree with you. A vision of a vision of a future where civilization is overrun by nature,
Oh, there, yeah,
much to the chagrin of the natives, which would explain that he misses the honky tonks. So
yeah,
yeah, definitely.
yeah. No, and I found that interesting too because in the song it's like everyone always says they want a simpler life, and really he's like complaining about it. He's like, well, I kind of miss everything. I miss going to the
Right.
gas station. I miss going to the shitty Pizza Hut. It's like it's kind of
Yeah,
interesting
right.
because you think about that and you're like, yeah, I want a simpler life, but do you really?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a really good question to ask.
But I think but anyway it highlights I think David Byrne's lyrics. I think he's a great songwriter. I really do. I feel like he takes these kind of simple concepts, I guess, and just makes them into art.
No, for sure. And what's interesting is that the whole band is credited as songwriters on this. So I think that's where you kind of get the layers with
Mm,
the different sounds. So I think when you have that, excuse me, that kind of island vibe, you have the drum beats, you have Johnny Marr on the guitar. I think you have
yes.
all those layers coming together as a maybe one of the few true team efforts from Talking Heads, possibly.
It's kind of interesting. I wonder if it would have went in a different direction because Flowers is or I'm sorry, Nothing But Flowers is definitely different than
Mhm.
their other music, but it's still really good. So I wonder what Talking Heads would look like if it was a team effort the entire time.
It's a really great question. Would they have missed those high moments, those
Yeah,
explosive, spectacle moments like Stop Making Sense?
I
At.
I would honestly, it's a really good question, and I think they would have. I
Right.
think I don't know. I think the stuff is just so unique, and if it's all coming from his head, like you said, like he's usually
Yeah.
credited as the sole writer, I feel like you would just miss out on classic hits like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's the truth. These are that, and that's one of those songs that I wasn't all that familiar with.
Hmm.
So I kind of like did a scroll of things that I hadn't listened to, and then I'm like, well, if we're going to start somewhere, you have to start with all those basics
Right.
that I kind of sent over, which is cool. So, but yeah, no, this is. I was, like I said, I was surprised with this one as well. I was even more surprised to find out that um, Johnny Moore was on the album. One of your favorites, one of your
I
favorite guitar players of all time.
absolutely love him. That was
Very good.
that was great. I have to say also another point that the live performances in this list that you gave me, I feel like they're almost better than the studio recordings.
Yes, and that's kind of what a couple of those, maybe at least the ones that cover that early, late '70s, early '80s period before and leading up to Stop Making Sense. I wanted you to hear just like a flavor of what the album track would have sounded like, what the studio
Yeah.
version sounded like, and then to take those songs and put them on this stage and just kind of like just totally rework them in a way. I think it's just really impressive, and it was kind of incredible.
Oh yeah, no, it was that was a really good idea by the way because it
Oh,
really
good.
did get me uh, a sense of what they could actually do live because sometimes I think this happens a lot with popular music is the you hear the studio recording and you think it's great and then you hear them live and it's just not really that good whether it
Mhm.
be the vocals or the performance or the playing but it was just fantastic. I think what noted that the most was Girlfriend is Better.
Incredible, incredible.
It was absolutely amazing, and his dance, his dancing. I've noted down. He
Yeah,
danced like a jellyfish. That's
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
yeah. But I don't know. I loved it. Like it was fantastic. I'm like I could sit and watch this all day.
Yeah, no, me too. Like, when I was setting these things, it took me like forever because I would stop and watch one clip after the next. But
Yeah.
I love a girlfriend is better when there's that it's all the stage is basically in darkness, and there's that guy with like the spotlight, and he's just walking around the stage with the spotlight, putting it on different members of the band. And then at one point, David Byrne just puts the microphone in his face, and he's like, "Stop making sense." And then he keeps going with the light. I just thought that was like that. Just for me, made that whole thing like even better. Like I don't know, it's
Yeah.
just what it was.
Yeah, it's just little moments like that
Right,
stick
right,
out, and it's just
yeah,
it makes it so great. But I mean, everyone up on stage is fantastic. I mean, they are really jamming out, and then the
yeah.
his backing singers are fantastic. It was just honestly probably one of my favorite live performances that I've ever seen. And then him in that freaking big suit too, it just
I
made
know.
it.
No, that's hilarious. It really is. It's no, it's definitely cool, and it's funny because I think um when there's you could parallel this with like kind of like the Grateful Dead. They had a edition of their band called Further, and Further was just like a sound. They were taking the music further, and they added backup singers and they added different things, and that to me, that created a better concert experience and took some like kind of like dusty album tracks and really livened them up. I think that's the same thing that happened here. Whether it was the live performances or the film, whatever it was, I think just took them to the next level. Like I said, I just think it's awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, no, it really is. It's taking something that's great and just and making it that much better. And I think
Yeah.
I think that's what I really loved about it. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, off this whole thing, I think that was definitely my favorite one. Now, what did you think about? Let me see here. I just have my notes. Oh, Road to Nowhere. I I don't know why, but I got some like Beach Boys, like Pet Sounds
Yeah.
vibes out of it. It had like a that marching band kind of drum beat.
Yeah. 100%.
That's what I found on that one. But it just goes to show you that there is a great variation of music that's going on here. Like it's not like everything just doesn't sound like once in a lifetime.
No. 100%. No. It's absolutely right. Um. Yeah. I think that was off that album. It was from 1985. Little Creatures is where Road to Nowhere came off. But you're absolutely right. It's this evolution of an artist, and I think we could. One of the biggest things that we talked about like last week with the National
Mm-hmm.
is that the National is the National.
Yes.
They have some blips, they have some variations, but it's like okay, it's still the National.
Yeah.
We said it before, we'll say it again. U2 is just U2. It's blah. It doesn't go anywhere. It just kind of right?
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah. So I think to see such ups and downs, kind of like a Bob Dylan deal, where you have this evolution. And the thing is I think the Talking Heads evolution is much, maybe much more impressive, but definitely impressive because they only had 8 albums. They're only together for a short period in reality,
Right?
In the whole scheme of things. So you really have behind the scenes. You had a brief hiatus, but behind the scenes, you're retooling. You're kind of thinking, okay, what am I doing? So that's David Byrne taking them in that direction. It was the band kind of evolving as well, doing their thing. Like I said, pretty impressive. But like you said, no one song is really similar. They all kind of have a different vibe.
Right. Exactly. And I think that goes to show you that that they're talented because, like you said, unlike U2, who just does the same thing over and over again, Talking Heads, they're evolving. They are finding ways to make their music interesting. And like I said, their live performances are fantastic. I bet if I watch a U2 live performance, it's probably nothing even close to what Talking Heads are doing on stage.
Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely for sure wild. And I'm glad that we kind of talked about it because I know you say, okay, how does it sound? And I always say, like, okay, well, what are the words saying? So we kind of like balance each other out.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we really do. We have that dynamic.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the maybe not one of the few times, but definitely a time where those things kind of link up, where you could appreciate that new wave, the different sounds happening, and also kind of lyrics, either painting a picture or just kind of making you move a little bit,
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think overall there were a lot of great hits on this. But again, I think "Girlfriend Is Better," "Burn Down the House" live performance was amazing, another jam, and even "Once in a Lifetime," that live performance was fantastic. Yeah. But there's so much good stuff here that I think I'm gonna have to go through and listen to a lot more of their stuff, go through their albums and take a listen, because I feel like there's, if I'm listening to songs that aren't the hits and I'm still loving them, I think there's a lot for me to find here.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely. Like you said, there's depth there. I really, 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 I'm really I love the, what am I trying to say here? the funkiness that they can get into the funk, and then you could, like you said, kind of revisit different albums, revisit their catalog, and you can kind of pick up different things. So, what do you think overall, either as a band, the songs in general? You want to break down a rating?
Yeah. Let's bust out the rating. And I had a number in my head, like I usually do going into this, because sometimes I think like I might be swayed as we talk more, but I always try to give the rating what I'm thinking at the time. And I will say this, I don't think I like them as much as the Smiths, because the Smiths are still one of my favorite bands that we listen to, and one of my favorite bands overall of all time.
Absolutely.
Now I'm gonna have to say I'm gonna give them an 8.2. Now,
okay, wow, that's solid.
Yeah, no, I think they deserve that, because I feel like the whole entire band is fantastic. The stage presence of all of them is amazing. They know how to put on a live performance, and they know how to make great studio albums, and it's unique, it's different. Like you said, it has that new wave feel. And there's songs that aren't so abstract that you're like, oh, this is kind of weird, this is like whatever, but they still make you want to like dance to them at the same time. They're very approachable, right, I guess normies like myself. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say, incredibly solid band. great sounds, and the vocals are fantastic. Of course, David Byrne, regardless of if he's an asshole or not.
Yeah, right.
I think
Another show.
yeah, yeah. I think he's super talented. I think the whole band is talented, and I can't see rating them low at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, 8.2. I'm going to give them.
Solid.
What do you think?
I think that's really solid. I think I forgot to mention my favorite, but I love "Take Me to the River," which is it's actually an Al Green song.
Really?
And that was a Talking Heads cover. But there's something about that song and Stop Making Sense that it's just like, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. this
yes.
is it. This is the ultimate. Does not get better than this. And it's funny because I guess when I read before that, David Byrne was against covering this because it's been a heavily covered song.
I see.
Yeah, so I think to take something that's pretty bluesy R&B soul and to kind of make it their own. That's probably my favorite out of this whole list. I hate to be cliched. I hate to be Mr. Oh yeah, top 40, whatever. No, that's one of my favorites. But I think your rating of an 8.2 is solid. I'd probably go like a little bit if we're going out of 10 being the best.
Okay.
Just my experience with the band when I heard Talking Heads, and it just kind of knocked me out, and I'm like, I have to hear everything I need to hear because I want to hear if anything else sounds like this.
yes.
It just kind of like my 13-year-old self sitting there thinking, oh my god, this is it.
I love it.
Pinnacle music. I think that I think considering their history, considering my history with the band, the impact, the concert film alone, the live performances alone of Stop Making Sense, I think you have to consider them to be one of the greatest bands of all time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think in the 8 to 8.9.
Okay,
maybe into 9. I think you have to rate. For me, you have to rate Talking Heads just because, like I said, my initial reaction to them, I think considering everything we went through, to definitely 100% push the envelope in new wave in every genre they were in. You could pick out a genre, and the Talking Heads did something there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think you're right in that meaty part of the curve. I think it's a fair rating for sure. So I think anywhere in there, I think you have to rank them pretty high. I do. I think, short-lived. They didn't have the longevity, maybe some creative disputes, whatever it might have been. Mm-hmm. But for sure, I think one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, no, that's solid. It's a solid review of them. Yeah, no, like I said, I totally agree, and I'm definitely going to listen to more of their stuff, BTS.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that this is is this almost 2 weeks in a row that you've liked something I've recommended?
I think so. Yeah, it's incredible. We're on a roll now. I think the next thing you have to recommend is something that I'll absolutely despise.
I knew going into this you would like Talking Heads. I did. I had a feeling you would.
Mm-hmm.
And then last week, the national Tropic Morning News, I'm like, oh, Ice is going to love this song. I know it. I know kind of what your vibe is.
you know me too well.
I got to come up with something that's just going to be absolutely not going to be your thing at all, because we've been on a pretty good streak.
We have been. I think it's time for a little drama.
yeah, we need a little more drama because everything's like, oh yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, see you later.
You have
Listen
to
this now.
You have to give me here you go, Ice. This is my favorite band. I'm like, oh, this sucks so bad. I hate it.
Which is exactly what happened to you when you're like, oh, you got to listen to this. No wonder why you never listened to Talking Heads after your ex buddy shut you down. I wouldn't want to listen to them either.
Yeah, that was really disappointing. That was incredible when you're so excited to show someone something and then they're just like completely and utterly just shuts it down. It's like, okay, well, I'll screw myself, I guess.
That's one thing we don't really do is complete shutdowns on each other, which you got to really respect.
Yeah, no, I think it's because we actually respect each other, unlike some other people. But
It must be, there's always something that I could take away, you can take away.
yeah,
Maybe a different perspective, whatever it is. Thank God though we didn't change our mind on U2 because we
yes,
both just absolutely equally shit on them the whole entire for about
yeah.
if you want to look at that episode, it's like 45 minutes of us just absolutely just talking shit on U2.
Oh, that was fantastic. Yeah, guys, go watch that. You're gonna love it. Oh man,
That's how it goes.
Speaking of shitting on people.
Oh no.
I really hate to say this. We're gonna bring it up. I know we teased it a little bit at the beginning, but whatever your political beliefs may be, we're gonna get into some politics right now. So if you're too much of a snowflake, click off this video right now. But leave it a like and subscribe before you do.
Yeah.
But
smash that like button, smash that subscribe button.
and see you later. But I wanted to talk about I really wanted to talk about the Republican Party and where they're going and their platforms. But the first thing I wanted to talk about, just really quick, is this whole debacle with Trump possibly being arrested. Now, nothing has happened, essentially. There's some stirrings that it might happen, but the most interesting thing to me was that the main source of this entire story was Trump himself on a truth that he truthed out to the world.
Yes, right.
If anyone doesn't know, that is the equivalent of a tweet. It's on his platform called Truth Social. That's the only place you can follow him now. It's his only social media because he's banned off everything else, which is kind of ridiculous. But
I think they rescinded a lot of the bans, but he just hasn't come back. I think he's just kind of doing his thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes sense. But yeah, no, I think now. I hate to say this. I think the Trump mania is wearing off because he literally called for people to riot from this. He said, "Go out."
You have to protest, right?
Yeah, he said, "Go out and protest." He didn't specifically say riot, but yeah, he said, "Go out and protest." But I don't even think anyone really showed up. I think the Proud Boys rolled in. I think there were anti.
Don't they do anything else?
I don't. Who knows what the Proud Boys are? A very strange organization. I think there's a lot of. I don't even know what's really happening. They're very close to each other. I'll say that.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of brotherly love going on within the Proud Boys. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's I've just watched interviews with them, but anyway, yeah. So nothing really happened there. And then it got me thinking, Dixon, and I don't know how you feel on this. I hope I don't burn any bridges or anything, but I feel like we're pretty level-headed politically, right?
Sure, 100%.
I'm looking at both sides here because, the presidential election is coming up. So we have Biden, who probably doesn't know where he is. And then we have Trump, who's talking about getting arrested, and he's probably the front runner. And then you have DeSantis. But overall, I'm like, what is, to a normie who's on the outside looking in, who doesn't follow politics, what is the platform of the Republicans? And all I could think of is just this anti-trans stuff. That's all. It's culture war. It's
culture war.
It's culture war. It's been like that for the past 3 years, and all I could think of, okay, what else are you guys doing? Like, we have massive inflation. We have housing prices going up to the point where people can't afford them. The middle class is literally dying, and no one seems to care. And you had someone who seemed to care back with Trump because he was the populist and he seemed to really understand the people. But now it's just culture wars. And I have to ask, one, who does this even really affect? And two, does it even matter to most of Americans, who are some people living paycheck to paycheck who can't afford their groceries anymore because of inflation, who are dying out here? Yeah. But all you see is Republicans saying, "Oh, we're gonna make drag shows illegal." Like, who cares? Who cares about this stuff?
You're absolutely right. Because anytime I ever see, the drag show, or this teacher said something, or whatever it might be, one of those culture war aspects, it's either they're putting. I'm seeing a video that's being put out as an outrage thing. Otherwise, I'd have no clue any of this stuff is really going on.
Exactly.
Really, no idea. And I think that therein lies the problem. I think that Trump is getting into the weeds on a lot of stuff.
Yes.
On his truth thing. He has like songs on iTunes now, I saw, or something.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
I think I saw that headline or something. I didn't look into it. But like, I think that he's getting into the weeds, but he's also kind of on message when it comes to Ukraine, Russia, China, the economy, and things like that. I think he's got some things going with that. But the big thing that you just said is that the Republican Party is pushing this culture war. The problem is, if DeSantis decides to run, I think you might have a situation where DeSantis is the GOP nominee, and Trump, who doesn't give an S about anybody or anything, will go off and run on his own on his platform, what he's pushing right now, and it's just going to totally just destroy the whole system, and that would be it. He has no chance of winning if he runs as a third party. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think his chances might be a little bit in question now, especially with the messaging that they're pushing, like you just said.
Right, because it's like I said, and you brought up a good point. Like he's on base with some of those other things,
right?
You know, whatever else. But again, the whole Republican base as a whole, if you're a normie, all you hear on the headlines and everything like that is the culture wars, and that's it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a huge problem. I think one of the biggest reasons that Trump won in the election in, what was that? That was 2016. In 2016, was because he was like a people person. He's like, I hear the middle class. I hear you guys that are hurting. Like, I'm going to come out and help you. I'm going to give you tax cuts. All this stuff. But that's like totally gone. It's totally gone now. It doesn't seem like anyone, and I'm not saying the Democrats are doing it better, because they're not. It's all just culture war bullshit, and then the American people are just sitting there buying eggs for $10 a dozen.
Amazing. It's incredible. It really is. It's wild. And nobody has really a solution.
Yeah, and that's kind of the scary thing. It's going down. Something has to blow up soon. We probably said this like a year ago on one of our other shows, but like I feel like we're coming to a head on some of this stuff, and I'm just getting tired of not hearing anything from either side. And I think this would be the perfect opportunity for Republicans to swoop in and go the populist route again. Right. But they don't seem to be setting themselves up for that.
No. Like you said, instead of talking about, like, I don't know, the possibility of banks collapsing.
That's another thing. How about that?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? We can't give you a loan for a home because you rent and you pay this, but $300 billion in assets are going to go away, and you get a bailout.
That's another thing. It's like,
it's think about what happened.
It's
like,
oh my God, it's like a comedy. It
really is.
It's very
insanity.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. But yeah, I don't know. I hope they get their act together. I really was hoping that we'd have some kind of definitive news on this whole arrest thing, though, because I thought I was gonna say I guess there's. It's funny because you said, like, oh, he's the only one that broke the news, which is true. It's like directly from him.
I was talking to somebody else about it, and like, oh, well, only according to him is he going to get arrested. I'm like, yeah, it's the truth. But I guess they're trying to they're trying to either cancel it or they're thinking they're going to pull back. There's new evidence in terms of like a grand jury thing. It's basically, it comes down to the hush money that he might have paid Stormy Daniels when they had an affair.
Yeah,
and it's this, but it seems like it's this more nuanced thing in terms of, like, it was a misdemeanor, but it was a felony. But then the guy downgraded other felonies to like, it's a whole. I really haven't fully grasped the whole idea, but I was really hoping Trump would have been arrested by now, but I think the memes, the videos would just be incredible. Like, he has that social media guy, Dan Scavino, and he puts these social media posts up like that Trump is like this gladiator. Like, he's like he's going into war. It's not me who they want. It's not you who they want. It's actually me. Like, like all this kind of stuff. Like, it would be just incredible content if he actually got arrested.
It would be absolutely fantastic. But unfortunately, nothing nothing has happened as of late. So it just, but yeah, like something is going on apparently, but which is kind of interesting because the Democrats went on for years and years that he's done all this legal stuff. I find it strange that the one thing that they're coming after to jail him is because of this hush money.
Yeah, the whole big thing is just to destroy Trump as much as any way possible.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I think that this might work in his favor. I think this is going to appeal to, like, I don't know, like that really hardcore faction of Trump voters and supporters. Like, oh, you know what? You're going to mess with my president. I'm going to vote for him no matter what. And I think that the other people, I think, can recognize that either this is a political hit job or it's just complete nonsense, or maybe there is something there. Who the hell knows? But I think it could go either way in terms of how it paints him in the public.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people are saying exactly what you said, that it could really work in his favor as far as it'll definitely ignite his hardcore fan base 100%.
Yeah, and I think even if you were on the fence a little bit, I think if you were kind of like, maybe you voted for Trump in 2016 and thought, oh, you know what, the hell with this, I'm going to vote for Biden. Sure. I was kind of on the fence in 2016 too. I was thinking, if Joe Biden ran, I wouldn't have voted for Trump.
Yeah, I mean, because that's where we were at that time, and it's like, it's kind of interesting to see what's going to happen, but yeah.
It really is. I think this is just an amazing time to be alive, because it just seems like there's just, no matter what happens, there's just all this stuff just kind of happening. You had it's amazing how since 2016 you had Trump, you had COVID, you had total breakdown of the economy, you had war in Ukraine. And then you had, at one point, you had peace in the Middle East, and then you had balloons, and planes are just falling out of the sky, and trains are going into the rivers. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, a lot of stuff has been happening. It's been absolutely wild. But yeah, it's
January
crazy.
6th, of course.
Oh yeah, January 6th, the big January 6th.
Boy.
Yeah, it's been absolutely wild. So I think we're not even close to being through it. So
no, there's no way.
Yeah,
this might be a good time to repent. Ice.
Yeah,
might be the end times.
You might be right. Kind of scares me. You're gonna who knows? Next week you're gonna go to your bank to take out some money, and they're gonna say, "Oh, sorry, no dice."
Yeah, exactly. 100%. I remember I was at the bank. One of the last times I went to like a bank in person. And somebody wanted to take out some money. They're like, well, we don't have this amount of money in the bank. And I'm like, well, what do you have? Like,
you're a bank.
You're a bank. Like, what do you... And like everything about the concept, it just seems so wild to me. And somebody's going to maybe hear this part and totally break it down. But like, in reality, you and I both get a paycheck, right? Mm-hmm. If you're like me, you have it on direct deposit.
Yes.
Right? Very rarely do you ever see that direct deposit liquidated. I don't know about you, but like, okay, I move money around, I put money in, but in reality, it's just numbers that I'm moving around.
100%, absolutely.
Right. So literally, all it is just pixels and numbers that you don't really even see. That is what the bank is managing. They're just managing numbers. It's like, oh, $1 million, great. Well, we don't have $1 million.
We don't actually have that money. No, it's incredible. And you know what? I don't know how banks work, and someone like you said could probably come in here and school me on it and say like, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. But my understanding is that banks take your money and then invest it to make a profit, and then because this money's constantly revolving. So when someone comes in and they're like, "Oh, I need this money," they're like, "Okay, well, let's pull it from all these other accounts." So like
from the other ones,
so your money's never really physically there. It's just like they're grabbing it from this pool of money that they have from investments that they're making, and if they make risky investments, as far as I understand, they could go under, like we see a lot of banks doing.
Yes, no, that makes sense. That seems about right. That's interesting.
Except when I play with stocks, I lose thousands of dollars, but when they play with stocks, they get a bailout. It says, "Oh, you get a redo."
Yeah, 100%. People's livelihoods, everything else, and just like it's the other thing is too, is like I don't think there's been any comment, or not that you would even believe it, but just maybe like a vote of confidence that your bank is going to be fine. Like they have, like there's some sort of backing there.
Yes.
Whether it be, you know, actual gold or, you know, we're not, I promise we're not just printing money to print money. Like there's nobody saying any of that with any of these things.
Exactly. And it goes back to the point we brought up. It's like, what is anyone doing? It seems like we're just ignoring this, and it's going to blow up at some point. So I don't know. I'm worried.
Yeah, it's 3 years from now, I'll be doing this from a Chinese prison or a Russian bunker or something. Hey guys, we have
we love China.
We have Kim Jong-un's greatest hits song 1.
Oh, the glorious leader. We love this song so much.
We love this song. It's so great. Yeah. We love you too.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean,
if you ever want to know if we're actually working for state media, is that if we say that we really like you too.
Yes, then you know.
Call somebody.
Yeah, please help us.
Pull our IP and find out where we
are. Yeah, that's the only time ever. We'd have to be forced by the state to do that.
Love it. Well, I guess we'll see how things go.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. And we will see you all next week on our next episode. Guys, like Dixon says, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. We're here every week. We read all the comments. Drop your hottest takes below, whatever you want to say, political or music-wise. And Dix and I will see you next week.
Peace.